Welcome back to Trade 360. I'm Diane King Hall. Time now for the big three stocks, three charts, three trades. Rick Ducat will take us through the charts, and here to take us through the trades, we've got Scott Bauer, CEO of Prosper Trading Academy. It is great to see both of you. Scott, I like that we're doing a 2 for 2 from yesterday to today. Scott, as usual, when we have you on, we always like to hear your big picture take on where we are in terms of the market action.
You know, it was obviously pretty weak this morning, and in whether that was the dollar, whether that was gold, more tariff uncertainty. But as we've seen recently, we see the market rally a little bit. And yesterday, it rallied all the way back to unchanged and even positive for a moment before selling off end of the day here. I'm a little suspicious of the rally back today. You know, being down 50 points in the S&Ps earlier, now just around 20 or so. So I think that we still need to be very cautious. And like we discussed yesterday, you know, the market needs a win. The market needs a deal, not just there's deals on the table. Until that happens, Diane, I think we have to be pretty cautious.
Okay, good point about until that happens. All right, so why don't we start out with the first ticker on your list. You've got Palantir in your sight, the stock down close to 12% at the moment off the back of its latest quarterly numbers, but it has had quite the run this year. What's your views on this one?
Yeah, I really liked this earlier this morning. It never quite got down to that 105 area that I'm looking at, but that was an area that I was targeting on a big pullback here, and I had a call spread ready to go to buy there that never hit. We're trading, 109, I think, or so right now. But
Yep.
If it does sell off later in the day, I think the opportunity really is there for some nice upside, whether, someone wanted to maybe sell a put spread. I was looking at buying the May 30th expiration, 110, 120 call spread, paying about $3. Again, it's a bit higher right now because the stock is 109, but I've got that sitting in my queue if we kind of fall off a little bit here.
Okay, so it's potentially on the shopping list here. Rick, take us through this chart. I mean, it's had a fantastic year before today.
Yeah, a bit of a stumble today here, but really not as bad as it could have been by any means. What I mean by that is this 109 level, this green line here, marked some low points and then a subsequent high point after the breakdown. And now, once again, it's where we are hanging on. We did test that 21-day EMA. I don't think we made it quite there, but that was roughly the low point there. Not quite reaching that 105 level that Scott mentioned either just yet here. We can see, though, that for now we're hanging on near this green line. RSI has been interrupted. We are below the overbought area and below our green trend line, but we are still maintaining our bullish momentum above the 50 midline here. So we have to see where the day will take us here. If we do start to move lower once again, this area really stands out. Our 21-day EMA lines up almost exactly with our yearly linear regression line, our solid blue line here that represents our line of best fit based on closing prices. So right around 105 stands out. And then here we had a couple highs here at our light green line near 97. To the upside, though, well, the double top near 125 is the obvious first point to reach here. Perhaps you could see some resistance if we retest our short-term white trend line. But ultimately, though, the +1 standard deviation channel comes in just below 135, so there could be further resistance there once we start to take out those highs. Remember, that's a moving target, too. That's kind of just a snapshot based on price activity right now.
Got it. All right, that's a snapshot there. Scott, any final thoughts on Palantir before we move on to your next trade, Goldman?
No, I think all my levels really lined up with what Rick was talking about. And if it does dip back down, I think that's a pretty inexpensive way to play an upside back recovery from this earnings dip.
All right, looking for 105 on Palantir for Scott. All right, Scott, let's move on to your next on your list. You've got GS on your list. Goldman under some pressure today. Been soft so far this year, but it's up more than 20% year over year. What's your views on this one?
This one's more technical than anything else. You've got the 200-day moving average, where we bounced off of it earlier this morning, and I think that is going to remain some really nice support. I always like, especially in a climate like this, going to stocks that are best in class in a particular sector. So for the financials, for me, it's Goldman Sachs, it's JP Morgan. And I think just because the technicals line up for me, Goldman Sachs is the choice. So what I'm looking to do here is actually sell a put spread, looking to sell next week's expiration 550, 545 put spread for about a $2 credit. My break even on that at the end of next week would be 548.
Okay, all right. So the choice there is a put spread. Rick, what does the chart tell you for Goldman?
So this is another chart where we have made our way to an important point here potentially. So to backtrack a little bit, our green line here represented a high point. This was an area where price had a lot of trouble closing above before we eventually had the breakout. Then this area came back into focus near 527 as support when it lined up with our purple 252-day exponential moving average. Then resistance, and now once again supportive here. So we can see this seems like a key level, 526, 527, our long-term supportive moving average, and one of these sticky price levels where we can see that it holds some importance in terms of closing prices here. Notice as well that RSI has been interrupted at this point here. Doesn't necessarily foretell any kind of drop-off here, but the fact that it does coincide with a break below our short-term upward trend line, may be worth considering here. Fake outs are common, though. Breaks below these areas can happen. It doesn't necessarily mean it's going to stick. That's why you have to use some kind of filtering or confirmation technique to make sure you don't get caught flat-footed. So if we were to look at volume profile, we can see that our area up here, we have our relative highs, our linear regression line lining up with a volume node. So around 600 stands out as a potential resistance area. Then to the downside, our level we mentioned, 527, 526, lines up with a small volume node, but the much larger volume node is a bit below, near 495, 500, around that point.
Okay. Any final thoughts you want to leave us with on Goldman, Scott, before we move on to your last trade?
I think just another opportunity to be back, get in a position in a stock that is best in class, that has some big technical support here.
Okay, all right. Let's take a look at your final trade on your list. You've got Marriott in focus. It had earnings today. It beat on its most recent quarter. So did better than expected. Shares are higher right now, but it has had some weakness this year and honestly on a year-over-year basis. What are you looking at here?
Yeah, it has. And, in their report today, at least to me, I was kind of puzzled a little bit because it was good, but they said that they expect that U.S. bookings are going to be down, but internationally they're looking for an increase. To me, I'm not so sure I buy into that. So again, here's another opportunity for me looking at a stock that is coming right up to its 200-day moving average here, which could be at some pretty decent resistance. So I'm actually looking to buy a put spread. This would be the May 30th expiration, 250, 240 put spread, pay about $3 for that. Looking at this area of resistance right here, and again, I could be wrong. I'm just not buying into why they would see international picking up. I understand the U.S. piece dropping off a bit.
Yeah, I mean, you make a great point because I have questions too about that as well. But that's what they said, so I suppose that is the investor reaction right now. But Rick, take us through what the technicals look like for Marriott.
Sure, 250 and 240, the strikes for the put spread there, line up very closely with our orange 63-day EMA and our yellow 21-day EMA, which are at 247, 237 respectively. So fairly close, all things considered here. For now, though, price has tested the low point of today at our purple 252-day EMA. So far, after a sharp rally that's taken us up like 23% or so, we're hanging on above our moving average. There's still some work to do for the bulls, though. We have not yet really closed our gap point that we've seen here. We had our low points here near 270, so that marks a significant potential resistance area. These repeated low points, as we say, old support can become resistance going forward. Momentum still pushing to the upside, though, short of the overbought area, but still trending upward as price continues to make new relative highs. So if we were to look at our volume nodes here, well, the volume node profile point of control is around 243. Our heavy trading area right here is where we've managed to stay above so far. We pushed through it rather rapidly. So the next volume node to the upside, right around here near 262 or so. So Scott's trade to the long put spread would kind of be right in this heavy, thick volume area here.
All right, Scott, I'll yield the floor back to you. Any final thoughts on Marriott, Goldman, or Palantir?
In Marriott, what Rick just pointed out at the end there, that big high volume area, I've got that on my target as well. So that aligns real good with this this put spread. Palantir, I know it's trading 108, 109 now. I don't want to see it come down for people that are long it, that own it, but I'd love the opportunity to get in on this call spread at the price I'm looking at.
Okay, looking for a certain price there for Palantir. That's Scott Bauer, CEO, Prosper Trading Academy, and Rick Ducat, our lead market technician here on Schwab Network. Thank you both.